You made a very sharp point in one of your tweets, Jamie, where you basically said we're entitled to honest government, and this stuff actually isn't honest.
Well, he's kind of being disingenuous, kind of blaming everything on kind of Putin. I think I agree with Rishi Sunak in some of what he was saying there, Mark. He was saying that mistakes have been made and we've got this kind of the aftermath of COVID is a big factor in this kind of cost of living crisis that we're going through. But let's remind ourselves, who was the Chancellor through the kind of the COVID pandemic, who dished out all of this money? You know, we saw a huge £400 billion coming from the Treasury. Some of that obviously was needed through the kind of the pandemic, but furlough went on far too long. We had too many packages, lots of fraud going on. So one mistake there, really right on Rishi's desk. Now, Moving King, so Moving King, the former governor of the Bank of England, was speaking on I think another show over the weekend with Laura Kuenssberg, and he actually kind of laid into the Bank of England. Now, for a former governor of the Bank of England to lay into them, and he said basically that there was a huge mistake to have printed all of that money during lockdowns, where countries were kind of contracting in terms of their economy, printing loads of money. And that's a big factor in the inflation crisis. So where is Rishi Sunak talking about his policies, the Bank of England policies? It's quite easy to go on, blame Putin for everything. And remember, Mark, a lot of the issues with Putin is actually because of what the UK and the European Union have put sanctions on Russia. So they've actually a big factor in that as well.
Yep. Yep, and it's interesting, you said you agreed with him about COVID, but actually even that line is a bit disingenuous, because we're not economically clobbered by the COVID, we're economically clobbered by the government's response to the COVID, including this printing of £500 billion as a way of getting people through the lockdown measures. But he can't be honest about that because he was the guy signing off on all that.
Well, indeed, he starts off saying we're in an economic crisis, and you know the facts are laid bare. I totally agree with what you're saying there, Mark. This is more of a cost of lockdown crisis rather than just a cost of living crisis. You know, lockdowns across the world, they're still going on. Things in places like China, any COVID cases, they continue. That disrupts kind of global supply chains there, Mark. You know, it's difficult to restart when you lock the country down as well. Remember, you can't just open up overnight. Even the airline industry is still struggling to kind of get back to where they were before because they laid off a lot of staff to try and do things cheaper. And so you've got different people blaming different things. And the other thing that kind of winds me out a bit, Mark, as well, is if it's not kind of anything to do with Putin, it's to do with Brexit. So if you look at the UK inflation rate now, it's currently lower than Germany. Germany have got a higher kind of fiscal package to support the energy bailout in Germany. They've got a shortage of workers, and they're heading towards a recession. Now, I don't remember Germany voting for Brexit either, or coming for Jersey, or whatever you want to call it. They're still in the European Union, and they're in a much worse place than what the UK is. So people are blaming all these different things rather than looking a bit closer to home and looking at the Bank of England and looking at the Treasury, who are two key factors in why we're in such a mess at the moment.
Well, when you say that that all the industries are having difficulty getting back out of the lockdown, and you cited the airline industry at Heathrow, you know, the baggage handling is a catastrophe. People are waiting weeks to get their bags back. In France, they have no air traffic controllers, so if you don't have like a 7 a.m. flight when the first shift kicks in, you're not going to be getting your 2 o'clock flight because they've all gone home by then. This is the cost, is it not, of people like Rishi Sunak and his equivalents in Europe paying people to stay home. It's the cost of it. People learn that, oh, I might not make as much money as I did when I had to go to work 5 days a week, but I don't have to go to work. And so being paid to stay at home, even if it's less, is worth it for me. And that's on Rishi Sunak too, isn't it?
Yeah, it's on Rishi Sunak, Mark, and it goes back before Rishi Sunak as well. You look at the tax credit system we have in the UK. For a lot of people, it pays to actually work part-time. So when you're looking in terms of the numbers of people actively available for work in the UK, well, we're topping up a load of people's wages with kind of tax credits through the benefit system. So that has an impact in the number of people that we've got. You know, I think, honest, I suppose we're at that point now where Liz Truss, No, it was laughable that people were saying no mini budget was a big factor in this. That's absolute nonsense as far as I'm concerned. We talked last week about the US putting up interest rates, and the Bank of England will have to follow. That's going to put up mortgage costs for people as well. So people have got to start looking a bit closer to home. Rishi Sunak, let's give him a chance. Let's see what he can sort out. But I hope, Mark, if we're talking in about 6 to 12 months' time, he can sort out the migrant crisis that's coming over as well. He's got a lot on his plate. But he just needs to be honest with people and not blame anything on everybody else abroad.
Well, he's promised to solve the migrant crisis in the next 100 days. So that's the end of January. And for everything else, we're being asked to believe that this Rishi Sunak is entirely unrelated to the other Rishi Sunak who was around a year or two back. They're two completely different people. That's why we need Rishi Sunak 2.0 to solve the hell created by the original Rishi Sunak. You're quite right about that. That line of yours that we need honest government. I think if it's all going to be terrible, so it could at least be honest. Thank you very much, Jamie. It's always great to see you.